I always loved staying up late at night. I enjoyed the silence and the darkness, and I felt more creative and productive. I was a freelance writer, and I worked from home. I had a cozy apartment in the city, and I had a nice view of the skyline from my window. I usually worked on my laptop in the living room, where I had a comfortable couch and a coffee table. I had a small bedroom where I slept, and a bathroom where I did my personal stuff. I didn't have much else, and I didn't need much else. I was happy with my simple life. But that changed one night when I experienced something I can't explain. It was a Thursday night, and I was working on an article for a website. It was about the latest trends in fashion, and I had to do some research and write some catchy headlines. It was not my favorite topic, but it paid well, and I needed the money. I was browsing the internet, looking for some inspiration, when I heard a knock on my door. I checked the time and saw that it was 2 a.m. I was surprised and curious. Who could it be at this hour? I got up from the couch and walked to the door. I looked through the peephole, but I couldn't see anyone. It was too dark outside, and the hallway light was broken. I wondered if it was a prank, or maybe a mistake. I decided to ignore it and go back to work. I walked back to the living room and sat on the couch. I opened my laptop and resumed my browsing. I tried to focus on my article, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching me. I heard another knock on my door. I checked the time and saw that it was 2:15 a.m. I was annoyed and scared. Who could it be at this hour? I got up from the couch and walked to the door. I looked through the peephole, but I still couldn't see anyone. It was still too dark outside, and the hallway light was still broken. I wondered if it was a prank or maybe a threat. I decided to speak up and ask who it was. I said, "Hello, who's there?" I waited for a response, but I didn't hear anything. It was silent, except for the sound of my own breathing. I felt a chill run down my spine. I wondered if it was a ghost or maybe a killer. I decided to call the police and report the situation. I walked back to the living room and reached for my phone. I opened it and dialed 911. I waited for the operator to answer, but I didn't hear anything. It was silent, except for the sound of my own heartbeat. I felt a panic rise in my chest. I wondered if it was a glitch or maybe a trap. I decided to check the signal and see if I had any bars. I looked at the screen and saw that it was blank. It was black, except for the words, "no service." I felt a dread fill my stomach. I wondered if it was a coincidence or maybe a sabotage. I decided to check the internet and see if I had any connection. I looked at my laptop and saw that it was frozen. It was stuck, except for the words, "no internet." I felt a terror grip my throat. I wondered if it was a malfunction or maybe a hack. I decided to check the window and see if I had any escape. I looked at the window and saw that it was locked. It was sealed, except for the words, "no exit." I felt a horror paralyze my body. I wondered if it was a joke or maybe a message. I decided to check the door and see if I had any hope. I looked at the door and saw that it was open. It was wide open, except for the words, "no mercy." I felt a pain pierce my heart. I wondered if it was a mistake or maybe a warning. I decided to scream and see if I had any voice. I opened my mouth and let out a loud scream, but I didn't hear anything. It was silent, except for the sound of his laughter. He was there the whole time. I always hated being alone at night. I felt vulnerable and exposed, and I feared the unknown. I was a college student, and I lived in a dorm. I had a roommate who was my best friend. She was always there for me, and I was always there for her. But that changed one night when she went missing. It was a Saturday night, and she had a date with a guy she met online. She was excited and nervous, and I was happy for her. She asked me to help her get ready, and I did. I helped her pick out a dress and do her makeup. She looked beautiful, and I told her so. She thanked me and hugged me, and then she left. She said she would be back by midnight, and that she would text me when she got there. I said okay, and that I would wait for her. I watched her walk out of the door, and then I closed it. I decided to stay in and study for a test. I had a lot of material to cover, and I needed to focus. I opened my laptop and started to read the notes. I tried to ignore the noise and the light from the hallway. I wished I had a lock on the door, but I didn't. I worked on my laptop for a couple of hours, and then I checked my phone. I saw that it was 11 p.m. I wondered how her date was going, and if she was having fun. I checked my messages and saw that I had none. She hadn't texted me at all. I was worried and curious. Why hadn't she texted me? I decided to text her and ask how she was doing. I typed, "Hey, how's it going? Are you okay?" I waited for a reply, but I didn't get one. It was silent, except for the sound of my own typing. I felt a twinge of anxiety. I wondered if she was busy or maybe rude. I decided to call her and hear her voice. I dialed her number and waited for her to answer, but I didn't hear anything. It was silent, except for the sound of my own ringing. I felt a surge of worry. I wondered if she was ignoring me or maybe in trouble. I decided to check her social media and see if she had posted anything. I opened her Instagram and Facebook and scrolled through her feed, but I didn't see anything. It was blank, except for the posts from earlier that day. I felt a wave of fear. I wondered if she was offline or maybe gone. I decided to check the news and see if there was anything unusual. I opened the browser and searched for the latest headlines, but I didn't find anything. It was normal, except for the stories about the weather and the sports. I felt a flood of panic. I wondered if she was safe or maybe dead. I decided to check the door and see if she had come back. I walked to the door and opened it, hoping to see her smiling face. But I didn't see anything. It was dark and empty, except for the shadows and the sounds. I felt a shock of horror. I wondered if she was lost or maybe taken. I decided to scream and see if anyone would help me. I opened my mouth and let out a loud scream, but I didn't hear anything. It was silent, except for the sound of his voice. He said, "Hello, beautiful. I've been waiting for you." I jolted awake to complete darkness and silence. As I tried to shake off the haziness of sleep, I realized the power must have gone out. I glanced around, disoriented, the shadows playing tricks on my adjusting eyes. What time was it anyway? I reached for my phone to check, only to be met with a black, empty screen. Of course, no power meant no phone. Sighing, I slowly sat up in bed, the old floorboards creaking under my feet as I stood up. I hated the heavy darkness and quiet that came with these power outages, especially when I was alone at night. I lived by myself in my small old family home, full of memories that comforted me in the daylight, but taunted me once night fell. I lit the oil lamp on my bedside table, a soft glow filling the room. As I crept toward the window, the flame caused shadows to dance eerily on the walls. Goosebumps prickled my skin from the chill in the late autumn air. Pulling back the curtain, I strained to see anything outside. Just a vast expanse of blackness dotted by swaying shadows cast from the trees in the yard, barely visible in the moonlight piercing through scattered clouds. A loud thud at the back door made me gasp and spin around. What was that? The wind, an animal scratching to get in, or something more sinister on this cold, silent night. I stood frozen for a minute, heart racing as I stared down the dark hallway leading to the kitchen and back. Hearing nothing more, I tried to calm my nerves. "You're letting your imagination run wild," I scolded myself. Still, I couldn't shake the unease that had settled heavily on my shoulders. I glanced at the flickering lamp beside me. I needed to get the power back on if I was going to make it through this night alone. The basement, that's where the circuit breaker was. I dreaded heading down those rickety stairs into the damp, musty blackness, but knew I had no choice if I wanted the comforting glow of lights again. I grabbed the lamp with slightly shaking hands and slowly made my way down the hall. Each groaning floorboard under my bare feet made my chest tighten more. Turning toward the basement door, I hesitated for just a moment before pulling it open with a creak that pierced the silence painfully. My racing heart pounded in my ears as I descended the stairs, each one seeming to amplify it in the tense stillness. The air grew colder, heavier. I held up the lamp as I reached the last step, casting light into the pitch-black space, shadows crawling up the concrete walls. Quickly locating the breaker box, I opened it, only to find the switches already in the on position. That's strange, I thought. I flipped them off and back on just to be sure. Nothing. The power was out, and clearly not coming back anytime soon. I turned to head upstairs when a sudden loud metal clanging made every muscle in my body tense. The noise seemed to echo endlessly from somewhere in the inky blackness ahead. What is that? Fear flooded through me, urging me to run from this basement full of things that go bump in the night that my mind didn't dare imagine. But that persistent, foolishly brave part of me had to know what made that piercing sound that made my stomach drop. I slowly walked forward, lamp extended, dim light doing little to penetrate the dark. The rough concrete chilled my feet as I took uneasy steps toward the back corner. Old belongings were scattered back here. Things that should have been thrown out long ago, but instead collected dust and unsettled feelings. The loud clatter rang out again suddenly from behind a stack of cardboard boxes, making me jump. I knew something was behind there. Something I desperately did not want to face alone down here in the darkness. My hands shook wildly now, causing the lamp to flicker with my terror. I gingerly stepped around the tower of boxes, bracing myself for whatever I might find as I raised the fading light. I never thought it would happen to me. I always felt safe in my apartment, even when I was alone at night. I had a good security system, a friendly neighbor, and a loyal dog, but none of that mattered when he came for me. It started with a phone call. I was watching a movie on Netflix, cuddled up with my dog on the couch when my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I answered anyway. Maybe it was someone from work, or a friend who changed their number. "Hello," I said. There was no answer, just heavy breathing. I frowned and repeated myself. "Hello, who is this?" The breathing stopped, and a voice whispered in my ear. "I'm watching you." I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone. I was on the 3rd floor, and there was no balcony. How could anyone be watching me? "Who are you? What do you want?" I asked, trying to sound brave. The voice chuckled. "You'll find out soon enough." Then the line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling a surge of fear and anger. Who was this creep? How did he get my number? Was this some kind of prank? I decided to call the police. I didn't want to take any chances. I dialed 911 and waited for someone to pick up. 911, what's your emergency? A woman said. Hi, I just received a threatening phone call from an unknown number. He said he was watching me, and he sounded creepy. Can you trace the call and send someone over? I said. Okay, calm down. What's your name and address? The woman asked. I told her my name and address, and she said she would send a patrol car as soon as possible. She also asked me to stay on the line with her until they arrived. Thank you, I appreciate it, I said. No problem, we're here to help. Do you have any idea who this person might be? She asked. No, I don't recognize the voice. And I don't recognize the voice, and I don't have any enemies or stalkers that I know of, I said. Maybe it's someone you met online or someone who got your number from a friend, she suggested. I don't think so. I don't use dating apps, and I'm careful about who I give my number to. Besides, why would they do this? What's the point? I said. Some people are just sick. They get a thrill out of scaring others. Don't worry. We'll catch him and make him pay, she said. I hoped she was right. I felt a little better talking to her, but I was still nervous. I checked the locks on my doors and windows and made sure my dog was close to me. He was a big German shepherd, and he would protect me if anything happened. I glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. How long would it take for the police to get here? I wished they would hurry up. Then my phone rang again. It was the same unknown number. I hesitated, but the woman on the line told me to answer it. Maybe they could trace it this time. Hello, I said. Hello, beautiful, the voice said. I felt a wave of nausea. He was still watching me. Where are you? How can you see me? I asked. I'm closer than you think. I can see everything you do. "I can see you talking to the police. I can see you holding your dog. I can see you shaking with fear," he said. I looked around, but I still didn't see anyone. "How was this possible?" "Stop this, you sick bastard. The police are on their way. They'll find you and arrest you," I said. He laughed. "The police can't help you. They're too late. I'm already inside your apartment." I felt a jolt of terror. Inside my apartment. How? When? I heard a noise behind me. I turned around and saw him. He was standing in the doorway of my bedroom. He was wearing a black hoodie and a mask. He had a knife in his hand. He smiled and said, "Hello, beautiful." I screamed and dropped my phone. My dog barked and lunged at him. He stabbed my dog in the chest, and he fell to the floor. I ran to the kitchen, looking for a weapon. He followed me, laughing. I grabbed a knife from the drawer and faced him. He was bigger and stronger than me, but I was not going to give up. I stabbed him in the arm and he cried out. He slashed at me and I dodged. We fought for what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably only a few minutes. Then I heard sirens outside. The police had arrived. He heard them too, and he panicked. He ran to the window and jumped out. He landed on the ground, and I heard a thud. I looked out and saw him lying on the pavement, bleeding. The police surrounded him and handcuffed him. He was still alive, but barely. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing. I was alive, but I was traumatized. I had just survived a nightmare. I had just killed a man. The police came in and checked on me. They asked me questions, but I couldn't answer. I was in shock. They took me to the hospital, and they took him to the morgue. I later found out that he was a serial killer who'd been stalking me for months. He had hacked into my security system, and he had a key to my apartment. He had been watching me every night, waiting for the right moment to strike. He had killed several other women before me, and he had planned to kill me too. But he didn't. I fought back, and I won. I was lucky, but I was also brave. I was a survivor,